This week, our Archicad tip of the week is managing wall information. And we do that with classifications and properties. If you've not used classifications and properties, this is a really powerful part of Archicad because it allows us to not only assign the properties, but also to control them in terms of how things look and also for schedules. So for example, if you go up to your options menu, go down to classifications manager, you open up the classifications manager, and here we have different classifications that can be assigned to walls, assigned to roofs, assigned to elements in Archicad, and that can help us control and manage those elements. Because when we actually go down to and open up property manager, also under the options menu and property manager, we can now assign what how the properties are assigned to classifications. So for example, if I create a new property here, and that new property is for fire, as we were talking about just a second ago, for fire ratings. So I create a new fire ratings assembly here as a property, and then I create fire rating values such as 45 minute, 60 minute, 90 minute, 120 minute, etc. Those are then assigned as values to that property, that fire rating value property, and then that's assigned to a classification, which would be for the different types of elements that I want to assign and would be appropriate to assign a type of value to. And then once I've done that, and I've clicked that classification as a wall, for example, it will then show the appropriate properties that are have been assigned to that classification. So for example, if this was not assigned to classification, maybe this was a classification for, maybe I'm using the wall tool, but I've decided to use that wall to actually draw the edge of a cabinet, because you can still use the wall tool for doing vertical types of elements, right, that have nothing to do with walls. So I could instead turn the classification off, and once I do that, or assign it to a different type of classification like cabinet, for example, or casework, when I do that, then this particular fire resistance rating property would not show up for that particular element because it wasn't assigned to show up for that kind of a classification. And so that's where it helps us to control where these properties show up in terms of what classifications. And by doing that, in using those properties, we can not only control those properties or use those properties for controlling the way things look, but also even in 3D. Here's where we can see that information for 30 minutes, for 90 minutes, and 60 minutes, and show that color in 3D, show it in 2D. It just allows us to use those properties to visually show information. And again, not just in 2D, 3D, excuse me, but also in our 2D view and our 3D view. And this actually would be for structural. So a good example here is that it can be used to highlight structural and non-structural wall assemblies. So in this case, we're using it to show in our floor plan what are structural assemblies in blue, that are load bearing, and what are not, and to show the same thing here in our 3D. We could use it also to show phasing. So we could actually create a phasing property. We could assign information to be phase 1, 2, 3, and then we could create views that show specific phasing for each view based upon the property. And that is our tip of the week.